Hey everyone, welcome to episode 59 of AI GTM Talks. My name is Mani Iyer. As many of you know, we kicked off this talk series. It's now been well over a year ago, and we do this every Thursday at 8:30 in the morning. And folks like to, some of us at least like to think of it as our appointment learning hour. We get to meet some amazing AI GTM tech CEOs and founders who are diving deep into different areas within go-to-market. We also bring on revenue leaders who, again, are transforming their companies around GTM. We also bring on GTM operators who are, really subject matter experts in different areas, and it's kind of an opportunity to learn from the folks out there who are really, deep in the space. So, super excited to have Jay Toor, who is the co-founder of Deepline, here with us today. Jay, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me, Mani.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna put up a slide here, and maybe we can start here. If you want to tell the folks listening, a little bit about Deepline, your company, and what you all do.
Awesome. Yeah, my name's Jai Toor. I'm one of the co-founders of Deepline. The problem that we're solving is infrastructure for go-to-market teams. But our approach is essentially like if you're an engineer building production systems that require GTM data and GTM integrations, what does that look like going forward? So we're more so building for engineers that are doing GTM versus the traditional GTM engineer. And what that actually looks like on a day-to-day basis is programmatic access to any data information or infrastructure that you need. I kind of think of it like a GTM toolbox for AI agents.
Got it. That's interesting. So you think of it as a GTM toolbox for AI agents, for GTM engineers. Jay, very quickly, I mean, as you know, things are moving so fast, right, around AI for go-to-market broadly, and then AI itself as a space. How do you see yourself in terms of who are you trying to target? You mentioned GTM engineers. Is there any particular types of companies, SMB, mid-market, enterprise, key personas? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so our target persona is generally an engineering-led company. Those are the companies that have adopted this the fastest. I think over time, everybody will go this direction, but that's generally who tends to be getting the most value out of us today. So it's often companies like owner.com, Modal, very product-centric, engineering-centric go-to-market teams. And yeah, what we're seeing is if we build for them and the agents, as Claude Code and Codex get better at software engineering and software development, we're kind of giving those agents the tools to solve the same problems because they're going to need that infrastructure. So the same way that Vercel is really well designed for people building front-end applications, we think there's a missing gap in the market for people building GTM applications.
Interesting. So you're trying to target the GTM app builders, so to speak. And I'm also wanted to, kind of get into this a little bit, which is, by the way, I should mention to the folks watching that you are going to be doing a whole bunch of show and tell. We're going to be taking a look at your technology, what you all have been building, some use cases around how customers are using, your tech. I definitely want to get into all of that because I know folks are super curious. Here's a question for you. I'm sure you get asked about this also from, I'm sure your customers are going through this decision process on, call it the build versus buy. So we should definitely get into that a little bit later, but maybe we can give people a flavor for what exactly, right, they can do with your tech and so on. So why don't we kick it off with just a demo of what does the GTM engineer, what can he or she do with the Deepline, right, platform?
Absolutely. Let me share my screen here. So I have a few examples of what we kind of see changing in the market today. I'm going to start with like a kind of start of the process that most people start working with us on. And I should probably get better at branding here, but the niche signal sample report, the first problem people come to us with is what signals actually matter for my target audience. So they might not know exactly how their ICP is defined or have an idea, but they're like, all right, how do I go find more people like this? And the change from the old way of doing things to the new way of doing things is you can actually use compute and the tools that we have today to build kind of tiny models, tiny statistical models that can give you more information on what you should actually be doing. So this is one I usually like to run at the beginning of an engagement with a customer, or when they start working with us. And the input is a list of wins and losses. So just good customers, bad customers. The mental model that I've seen work pretty consistently across all Claude Code, Codex, et cetera, use cases is lots of examples, what good looks like, and then also what bad looks like. What is a negative outcome here? And when you run this skill in Claude Code, it will output this report for you. And what it's actually doing in the back end is we have 80, almost 90 providers at this point. So it's going to look at that account list and say, let's go get a sample of signals for 10 accounts first, 10 wins, 10 losses. Let's look at which ones are interesting for those, kind of narrow down the scope, and then keep scaling that account list up until we've enriched all 100 wins and 100 losses, and build a scoring model, essentially. So it's looking at what keywords or concepts were positive outcomes or associated with wins and how strong that lift was. So things like account creation for this data set, FDIC, this company targets consumer fintech or consumer finance companies. So that generally is just a signal that they're a consumer insurance, consumer insured financial services company. And then it finds negative signals. And at the end here, you get a scoring model of who are the types of personas at those companies by looking at job hiring and the titles that are present, who's most likely to be someone that's relevant to your product, as well as a lead scoring cheat sheet. So remember, all we put in here was a list of wins and losses. I think I put the customer website for this one, so it knows what the product is. But other than that, it's really just looking at what's relevant and specific to your particular company. The takeaway here is, like, if your scoring model could be used for your competitor, or the signals you're looking at are the exact same as everyone else, there's not really any alpha in that because you're doing what everyone else is doing. So what are the angles and edges that you can find for your particular use case? And how I actually generated this was with Claude Code in our platform in the backend. I'll stop there, Mani. Any questions?
No. I think this makes a whole lot of sense. Now, do you mind maybe if we can go to the very top section? I think you had nicely summarized. I thought for folks, what are the kinds of things. So let's go over this real quick. To me, I found this very interesting. So one is, you're saying you're going to figure out what are the most critical signals. You're calling it the number one signal, right? That's one of the first things you're doing there. So that the second thing, you're calling it the best fit archetype, which I'm assuming means who are your best customers, say 10 of your top customers, and what can you insert, deduce or insert, figure out from discern, so to speak, from in terms of who are the companies accounts most like it. What's the fastest path pipeline? You've got it up on top.
Fastest path is
path to pipeline. Okay, got it.
Yeah, the specific titles and companies that are associated with wins. So kind of like,
got it. Company size, revenue, could be titles of people in those companies, that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And then negative signals, I actually find is maybe the least common thing that people already have. It's very rare that people have like very hard exclusion rules, but these are actually some pretty easy ones. ISO 27001 is a B2B signal. If they already have a liveness check, that means they've already solved the problem that this product solves. And then Kubernetes Terraform means it's a very developer-centric company that might build their own solution here. These are negative signals then. And that exclusion and negative signal, I think, is the other big change. I think we've historically all spent a lot of time on like, what does good look like? But it's been harder to actually figure out what bad looks like. And the difference between good and bad fit accounts is actually where most of the effort and value of what this kind of report does comes from.
Yeah. But that's an interesting one, Jay. I'm curious about when you say what bad looks like. Are you focusing on the accounts that have churned? Are you looking at churned customers? Or are you looking at close lost?
Typically, we initially start with close lost, and bad's maybe too strong of a term. But what is not closing? What is unlikely to be? Closing. Yeah. What is unlikely to be a revenue or pipeline? We also do this for. We had one customer who ran this for who's likely to pick up a phone call. So toss in all the features for is this the decision maker? What's their title? How many contacts have we had with them? What's our kind of historicals? Toss that into Claude Code, get more information, more enrichment about that user, and then build a very tiny ML model for is this person likely to answer a cold call? So
Oh, wow.
what good
Okay.
and bad looks like depends on the use case, but you
Yeah.
can kind of just come up with good and bad outcomes for whatever challenge
Yeah.
you're taking on.
Got it. Question for you. You've got this set up as a Claude skill. Does this mean when somebody buys into your tech, they're on any of your subscriptions, are you automatically setting that skill up in their Claude instance?
Yeah, so we have a repo of open source skills that you can use and you can leverage for your
Okay.
own GTM and skills. You
Yeah.
can just copy and leverage them. So these come packaged with our platform.
Yeah.
We actually, yeah, so you can see GTM Deepline. We actually have like a meta skill concept. So, for example, like building an org chart, building TAM, converting Clay to Clay tables to Claude Code or Code. These are recipes you guys can just take from us.
Yeah.
But in the back end, it's using our platform in most cases. But the logic and tests that we've done are all kind of agnostic to our specific platform.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. No. This is super cool. I mean, what you guys been building, Jay.
Yeah.
I think this is quite. I can see how it can be quite appealing to folks who have the call it in-house GTM engineer, call it talent, resources, people with those skills within their company.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can see it as being two dimensions, right? One is you got to have the capacity, the internal capacity to do these kind of GTM, projects. That's one aspect. So and then you got to have of course, the AI fluency. And the
Mm-hmm.
other dimension for me is you really, really care about developing a competitive moat for yourself as an organization
Mm-hmm.
against your competitors. So you want to invest in that sense and want to go deep, right? And to quote,
Yeah.
differentiate using your GTM as the differentiation point and not just the product you're building. Does that sound right? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I will clarify that like while our kind of like top customers who are getting the most value out of the platform are engineers doing GTM, anyone using Claude Code or Claude Cowork
yeah,
will get value and probably a lot of value. And as we build out more kind of guardrails and infrastructure to make it easier, it will get easier and easier to use. We have an MCP on the way, and it'll get more and more tactical. Just today, the primary differentiator between us and everyone else we've seen is we are extremely programmatically accessible. So we have a TypeScript SDK. You can implement us into your product like very easily. We handle all of the hard parts of GTM data, like waterfall enrichment, rate limiting, logging, observability. How do you actually optimize or fall back to the right provider? All these like kind of painful parts of GTM app building that
yeah,
are more or less unique to the space in some ways, and making that developer experience better. But the actual problem and availability is making sure the agents have awareness, discoverability of what data source should I use for a particular challenge. So one more example that might be helpful is that org chart skill, create an org chart of owner.com's biz ops and sales teams. So that's the guidance I give it. It's going to go try to find a bunch of different data sources and combine them. So
yeah,
it's using a free people search that we have, then it falls back to Apollo, then falls back to People Data Labs, goes through and tries to build the most exhaustive list of people. And then it uses our skill to rank them and come up with the best way to create that org chart. So it found 164 people around those two teams, and then creates the UI here.
yeah.
And so let me break this down. So I can see executives, directors, has email, go into any of these folks and see, I guess Apollo doesn't give you the email right away, but I can get this email for Apollo, look at their LinkedIn profile. I can also say, hey, here are my contacts. Can you go find warm intros to these individuals or who's kind of the best person to reach out to? And the only input I had here was the company and the title, and then a prettier version that we put together for another customer is like the hierarchical org chart. So you can prompt one more time and say, do the hierarchy version, and then it's going to give you the individual, it coalesced multiple data sources to generate this. And the hard part here is knowing how to build an org chart, what data points matter, how do you estimate seniority, titles, how do all of those pieces go together? And then the actual data sources, we have a bunch of different options to fill this out. But the goal is to solve this problem as efficiently as possible. And so you can do this for any company. You can change it to fit your model. What we have provided in this is all the backend data, some guidance on how org charts typically work, and then Claude Code is filling in the rest of the gaps.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. There was some technical issue. I just wanted to kind of reset a little bit.
Cool. Yeah.
So what I thought could be interesting next, Jay, is can you speak to the kinds of GTM data-related sources, use cases you all support today? Obviously, there's data enrichment-related providers, whether it's account enrichment for firmographics, contact data enrichment for missing emails, phone numbers, and so forth. What are the other types of, call it data that you're tapping into today? Because I know you and I have also talked about a couple other areas. We are hopefully going to be doing some collaboration, right, around signal data.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of break it into two groups of concepts. So GTM workspace integrations. These are typically sequencers, CRMs, Slack, your data warehouse, things that are internal. You're using your own connection here. You're building the account and using your API keys. And this is basically just to like activate the data. And then we have the platform integrations. You can kind of think of this as like first party, third party. So third party platform integrations, we have everything from like Ad Intel, which is very specific to advertising data. Bloomberry does tech. Data for SEO is like live Google SERP pages. Really depends on the use case. And then we have some native providers that we built as well to fill gaps. You can also just use a generic HTTP provider. If you have an account with one of these providers, you can give it preference in Claude Code and say, always use this one first, or override with your credentials. So we're pretty flexible on like how you access data. I think when I see people extremely successful with the platform, what typically actually happens is they do one step before building the GTM workflow with us, and it's have Claude Code research public data sets and say, there's a skill I love called last 30 days, and it just goes to Reddit, Twitter, X, Instagram, and finds every like potential public signal that might be relevant. It could be social signals. It could be just which public data sets are useful for this. It might find healthcare data sets. The coolest one that I've seen so far, which was the one where I was 100% sure this was the right way to go about it, was we had a mining safety company that I know absolutely nothing about mining or safety. But the particular use case was they're trying to figure out what mines in the US are likely to have safety needs or potentially have safety incidents coming up. And I let Claude Code run with that prompt, just gave it that high level guidance. It went to Reddit. It found a data visual about mining safety incidents. It traced that back to a paper in archive. It regenerated the paper model in archive from a public data set and then used that for its scoring model. So the best cases are usually combining public information that is not in any of these providers on top of the public providers to fill the gaps. Once it found the mining safety incident mines, it then used our providers to do the contact enrichment to figure out who was a new hire in the safety org, to find the right people to reach out to, and from a GTM perspective.
Yeah.
But the people who are really driving like 10x outcomes, 100x outcomes, they're combining multiple data sets, some that we have no concept of or ability to guess. We're just providing the tools and assets to make sure that you can access those easily and at scale.
Amazing.
Yeah.
No, that's a very interesting example that you just gave.
Mhm.
So sounds like some of this, you're discovering
Yeah.
all kinds of crazy use cases in terms of how your own customers are using this tech. Is that right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
what they do with this.
I think that's the exciting part about GTM. It's the hard part, and the exciting part is no two customers are truly the same.
Yeah.
And so our thesis is the infrastructure is actually very similar across all of these. You need to be able to store data. So we have a customer database that automatically logs all the enrichments. It
Yeah.
real-time syncs with your CRM.
Yeah.
So you can get all your enrichment data. You can build custom applications or custom models. Your enrichments are cached, so you're not paying for the same data over and over again. And this is a database that you own. So you can reveal this URL, pass it to Claude Code, build custom applications, all the data stored. It's kind of mapped to contacts for you. That backend infrastructure is universally useful and important for a lot of workflows. And then we have the workflow kind of layer as well. Everything is designed in Claude Code. So you describe the workflow you're trying to accomplish, just the outcome that you're trying to accomplish. And then it will figure out what tools and providers it needs to use to do that. And everything is actually managed. Like you can't edit this actually right here. You have to use Claude Code because we're very focused on making that experience the first class experience.
Got it.
But you can see the results because humans still need to be in the loop for approving something. So this is one of a webhook that when we get and you sign up, go find the information on the reviews of the restaurant, because that's useful for the sales team. So
Got it.
It takes in data from a webhook or a cron job, runs that workflow, outputs it to either the database or a sequencer. You can have it update the CRM with this information, and everything should just be one prompt in Claude Code.
Got it. Question for you on the database layer you just showed. I know a bunch of folks are using Superbase. Is that something you all support natively, or is that how does that work?
Yeah, this by default we log everything to our a Neon database that's spun up per customer. So it's fairly the same. It's just managed by us versus your own Superbase. Long term, we will have like bring your own database as well.
Got it. Okay. And then other than your own database built into Deepline, I see. Okay, you do support some off-the-shelf CRMs like Attio and HubSpot. Is that also supported? Looks like.
Yeah, Attio, HubSpot, Salesforce. I think Close, and there's one more on the roadmap, but I'm blanking. We're adding new integrations pretty much daily.
Okay.
The highest value we've seen is we have to cover every single use case we can. When someone isn't able to solve a problem with us, that's really important to know. So we immediately are trying to find more data providers or solutions to solve that. Signals is we discussed previously, Mani, is the next big one of, hey, I want to, in Claude Code, say every time someone hires a VP of growth in the US, I want to know about it. Send me a workflow to the Deepline webhook, and then add it to the database, send it to my CRM, send it 8 different places, do whatever I need to do with it. But how do I configure that and set up billing all from Claude Code as well? Our big bet is just Claude Code and Cowork, and these agents are the primary user interface going forward. I don't know about you guys, but I almost feel like I'm moving too slowly when I'm using a user interface if they don't have an API first. We're obviously like a little bit more technical end users, so I don't think that's everyone. But it does feel slower. So if we can get everything that you could possibly want to do available via that very fast, accurate, reliable interface, that's our goal.
Yeah. So Jay, this might be the good time. I'm going to bring up that, the quadrant grid you and I have spoken about, right? I think we should show folks who are watching how, we've been thinking about it. I know, you've heard from customers, they think along the same lines in terms of kind of the decision framework, if you will, right? So what we found is that as we go into customers, and I think you know this already, for the folks listening, I'll say a little bit about what we do at Quanzu. We have built out what we call a signals hub, where you can aggregate buying signals, both the individual contact level, company level, on the website, off the website. And then you can feed it into a database layer. And a lot of our customers are using Superbase, which is why I asked you about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they want to build enrichment. They want to finish the data enrichment there. Then they want to build NA10 powered. A lot of the time it is NA10 powered. Call it business logic to build segments. And so, account scoring, lead scoring, and then funnel it into different kinds of tools for doing all the outbound sequencing.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely many of them are starting to look at Claude Code. They're like, hey, can we then from Claude Code be able to do API calls, right? And do a bunch of stuff. So that's why very, very interesting, Jay, what you guys are doing at Deepline. So we obviously think some amazing synergy there, right? Because what we realized was that while we have our off-the-shelf app that in the buy box, it ends up being an off-the-shelf app for doing signal-based, sourcing signals, similar to a bunch of other tools that are out there that can do similar things. Other than us, of course, there's, Common Room does some of this stuff. You've got some others. So now you've got your signal-based tech in the buy box, and then you've got the build box, which is, I think, is the natural point where they could potentially use us through APIs, and then they could use you guys for literally everything else you do, and then kind of put it together, right, with the Claude Code interface. And then the partner box is interesting because for companies that care to differentiate for go-to-market, but they don't have the in-house AI fluency and capacity, they need to find, companies who are I call it GTM ready, GTM domain expert, agencies, if you will, or outsourced teams, if you will, that they need to bring in, and then they need to partner with them. It could be, so many companies are spinning up in that area. What we've done also, Jay, just also for the folks listening, is we've actually turned our tech and then we made it a white label. So the entire app can be white labeled by an agency and offer it out with their brand to their customer. So I think this world is probably going to continue to evolve, right, in each of these dimensions. I think you're going to have technology like what I know, Jay, Deepline, what you guys have already built and you're offering out into the market. You're going to have one segment of customers who are, I call it the tech savvy, AI fluent, right? GTM heavy engineering types. They're going to be building a lot of stuff with you guys, and hopefully tap a little bit of the signal data that we have. But how do you see this world evolving? I think we should talk about that next.
I think I can also share. I'm at the SaaStr conference this week. And one of our customers is a guy, owner.com, Kyle Norton, is, I think, maybe the best at explaining the one. They were very early on everything we're doing. So we're very lucky to have them as a customer, because we kind of saw this trend coming, I think, maybe a little bit faster than other folks. But his mental model is very clear, and I do really like it. So, for example, I'm copying his slides from yesterday, but made them prettier because my photos were bad. But the two examples were pre-call research and building a dialer. So build versus buy. Building a dialer, the questions he's asking internally is it uptime critical? If this goes down, does it kill the business? How custom does it need to be for our use case? If it's completely custom, then it's something we should probably build. If it's something that's the same for every sales team that we don't need a ton of customization on, not worth our time. ROI on the engineering time. Do we own the intelligence? Like, is being the best dialer going to get you further along? Maybe there's some edge cases, but for the most part, probably not. And then, is this a competitive edge? Not really. Everybody has it. So these are not always going to be as clear as dialers, but the mental model is like, is maintaining it a risk? And then how custom does this need to be? And what's the compounding value that we're getting from it? And then the other example was pre-call research. Like, there's a lot of research or deep research tools. When should you build that versus buy it? Uptime is critical, not urgent. If it runs at night, it's fine. Their ICP is so specific. They sell to restaurants. There's no one who's really building really good restaurant data research tools. The ROI on engineering, fairly small project, very high ROI. It gets better over time. It feeds into our systems. And then does this give this an edge versus our competitors? We know that our competitors are not doing this at the level that we're able to. So this is an obvious like build one. And I think that like mental model of like differentiation, how it's kind of like the question of like, should we build our own CRM? Like 99% of the time, the answer is no, because it's not a compounding value. It's not a competitive edge. Uptime is critical. You now added all this maintenance that doesn't really add value to your business. And Salesforce is one that he's especially bullish on. But there's things that are like really specific to you. And we actually we're handling some of this stuff for them internally. But over time, like you just can't move as fast as an internal team. But giving them the tools to move more quickly on those same tasks is kind of the way I see it progressing here. So ML lead scoring with better enrichment data, pre-call research, making that just really easy and quick to get live for both like very advanced customers like owner.com or less advanced customers. The tools just change, the interface changes a little bit, but I think the types of projects you should build versus buy are actually fairly similar.
Yeah. No, this makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because I should mention on the same point, we had this good friend who's like a revenue leader at a company called Cognitos. His name is Riaz Haider. He came and spoke in an art series last week. And again, he was putting on the thinking cap of the revenue leader in terms of build versus buy versus partner. So in fact, I know credit to Riaz. We learned from him in terms of how to start framing things and thinking along those lines. And he again has a very clear process along these lines of deciding should you spin up an AI project in-house or not, and what should be the driver, right? And he talked about the concept of, by the way, Jed, you may find this interesting, of reversibility, meaning if you have a process that is manual and now you automate it with AI, and if somebody leaves your organization who used to, who built it and who can probably fix it and maintain it, but then he or she is gone, can you reverse back to the old process? So he had that notion of reversibility as another metric, low to high.
Yeah, so I'd be curious how reversible a lot of these are, because even if you consider Claude Code your partner here, like the one who's doing it, do you actually know how, or could you rebuild it from scratch without? Like,
no. He was talking reversibility in terms of going back to the old manual process versus the automated process, and he was trying to use that as one of the criteria for deciding low high on the differentiation reversibility axis. But let's keep going. This is really cool. So. Question for you, whatever you showed us today, is that with the assumption of I am a developer, I'm a GTM engineer, and the Claude environment, Claude instance that you showed, is that for me as a individual and all the skills and stuff? Because as you know, if you go into the enterprise context, then you really have multiple people. You got to have workflows that are robust, that can be deployed across multiple applications. You need to have the notion of shared context across all these different applications. How do you think about all of that? Because that's the world we're moving towards. But I'll be honest with you, I go into some of these, environments where a lot of revenue people are talking about stuff. They're getting super excited, but they're doing, between us, I mean, it feels like they're sometimes getting overexcited about something they built for themselves. But the real engineering hard problem is how to build it in a way that it works, right, in these workflows that are enterprise scale. But
yeah, absolutely. I think it's still very early in that space. I think it's not super clear how it's going to end up. I think I've seen two routes. The owner.com example, I think it's actually very related to the sales cycle. Like how unique and complex is each individual deal. So if it's a longer sales cycle, longer time frame, larger ACV, those tend to be a little bit more bespoke, and there's each rep's approach is kind of unique to them. And then in that case, I usually see about 50% is centralized and automated, and like the central RevOps or GTM engineering team is in charge. And 50% is actually a little bit more like, this is my tone, this is how I want to message, this is the type of signal I'm interested in. So it's a little bit more build your own adventure for the rep. And I have generally seen it correlated with like the complexity of the deal. And then companies like Owner, where it's a fairly quick deal cycle and fairly fast, they are very centralized. They're doing 90% of all AI work is going to be their central played AI team, their RevOps team. It's very like, let's solve all the data problems and let sales reps focus on selling, because the deals are fairly similar. The process is fairly similar by opportunity. So I think those are the two features in my mind of how unique or standardized is the sales cycle, and then what is like the value of custom data in that workflow, like personalization.
Okay.
One other kind of interesting data point is, so Owner is very centralized. Companies like Ramp actually have built AI developer experience teams for their sales reps. So they are building tooling to make it easier for sales reps to vibe code something completely unique to their workflow. So I think there's two ways to handle it. One is like the Ramp version of, we're going to enable you and we're just going to build guardrails, security, kind of like keep that context centrally managed for you. And then the Owner one, where it's, hey, we're just going to do it all centrally. Like, you focus on selling and what you're the best in the world at, and we're going to handle everything else behind you.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But again, I want to move to the discussion we were going to have today around, I call it moving to agentic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So moving to agentic for me means, yes, you can build these, call it custom GTM agents and apps and tools and so on, whether you build it in the, owner.com model, which is centralized, or the decentralized Ramp model.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, you need to build these internal AI agents, AI GTM agents, but they're all tapping like a shared context.
Mm-hmm.
And the shared context got to live somewhere.
Yeah.
And then they also need to tap into some shared data, and the data's got to live somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about that? And what are you seeing in terms of where people are building the shared context layer, and where are people building the shared, call it a data layer? I know you have your own database that you guys are offering. Can you talk about that deployment architecture a little bit, if you will?
Yeah. We actually started as a data warehouse native application. So we kind of viewed the data warehouse as the central object in this world. And generally that is still probably the best option if you're a large enough company. The challenge there is you need some data engineering expertise. So you have to like build out that muscle. That is, in my opinion, there's some like latency issues. And if you need real time, there's some other aspects. But for the most part, if you can get to a data warehouse central system like Snowflake, BigQuery, they handle JSON really well. They handle unstructured data very well. Having like temporal relationships between when transcripts came in and when opportunities were closed is super valuable. I do think it's just like a database at the end of the day. What is missing from that is potentially like this additional context layer that people often discuss, like what is our companies like Octave, for example, do personas, use cases, proof points, messaging frameworks, or tone or brand voice. All of that, I personally usually see teams, ourselves included, we just have a GitHub repo with a couple of files. I shifted on this point recently. I used to be a very strong, like, hey, let's build the context layer first. Let's front load it. Let's spend 2 weeks like really understanding everything about your business and having everything mapped out and have personas and use cases and ICP definition and everything. And then I'm like, wait, why did we just spend so much time on that? Like, it's often wrong. The cost of bad context, I think, is higher than exhaustive context. So a small piece of information that isn't relevant or no longer relevant actually hurts more than having a bunch of information that you're not using all the time. And that made me shift my mindset a little bit of like, okay, wait, why do we need all this information up front if we're never using most of it? So I've kind of moved our customers in our onboarding to a just-in-time context. What's the minimum amount of context to solve the exact problem you need to first, and incrementally add context for each problem as you go. And that does slow down each individual task. but I generally believe that like it's too hard to prune context right now, and someone will solve this problem eventually. It's very hard to remove irrelevant data
Yeah,
versus add relevant data. And
got
so
it.
if you only add relevant data over time, that compounds, that gets better. You'll build internal systems. Most of our customers use GitHub internally. Claude Enterprise now has this like shared context, shared files system.
Yeah,
So
right.
they'll have like skills or something that they share amongst the company. So you
Mm,
might have a skill for like, here's how you query a database and always get a good answer.
mm,
So people are doing pretty clever things. I think I went from like, oh yeah, you need a context layer. We were also building it and selling it, so I was probably just drinking my own Kool-Aid.
yeah.
But I now have seen that it's too hard to keep context clean for most
Mm,
teams.
yeah,
Um, Version control is probably a harder problem than PowerPoint version control is a harder problem than most engineering teams are able to solve. So
yeah,
what's
yeah.
the easiest, simplest way? It's actually like just do less and do the minimum that solves your problem.
Got it. So are you then is are you thinking now you want to increasingly rely on the underlying Claude enterprises ability to maintain manage context across multiple people within the org and agents and so forth? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just seeing so much adoption from that, and it's kind of like why challenge
Yeah.
something that is clearly working and solving the problem,
Got
and
it.
they're doing it better
Got
than
it.
we are.
Yeah.
We are using that customer DB as the context layer for our use cases.
Correct.
So you can store unstructured information in there, process it in whatever way, store
Yeah.
like page markdown for whatever you need.
Right.
So we're leveraging technology to solve context problems that can't be solved by Claude
Yeah.
or Anthropic or OpenAI. Uh, but where's the alpha for us? Where can we add exponential value? It's
Yeah.
probably not on like this is your ICP.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have that somewhere else. We can support it for you. We have ways to support it for you. We'll definitely have a way to manage it for you, and we are building tools and skills to help customers just get that out of the box.
Got it.
But I don't see it as like a huge differentiator long term. I
Got
think
it.
I switched
All right.
sides on that. Yeah.
Sounds good. So I think we probably should come back at some point, Jay, and I'm sure we'll have another interesting
Yeah.
chat about building AI agents and so forth. But let's we have a few more minutes. Talk about your own GTM. How are you guys getting out to market? What seems to be working for you in terms of GTM? Same for us. I can tell you, we are engaged in a bunch of communities. We do, we go to events and so forth. Have you
Mhm.
found some interesting approaches for your own GTM?
Yeah, I think one interesting data point that changed how I thought about this was there are only about 6,000 GTM engineers in the world with that title. It might be
Okay.
closer to like 7,000 now. This is a month or two ago. The title is fairly rare. Like that is not a massive TAM, so it's a fairly small audience, and
Got it.
they're consolidated in a few places.
Hmm.
So Slack communities, WhatsApp groups. There's like a finite set of places where these audiences are living. So I've definitely spent a ton of time like getting into those communities and understanding like what are people struggling with and adding
Yeah.
value where I can and
Hmm.
trying not to be too salesy, but just add value and help people
Hmm.
out. And that seems to be one of our best growth levers. In-person events, I think, are underrated.
Yeah.
Um, the demand for them is just so high. Everyone's kind of
Got it.
post-COVID coming back. And then the last one is content, walkthroughs, examples, YouTube videos of like, here's how you solve this exact problem.
Hmm.
That's like our middle to lower funnel conversion point, but for the most part, it's fairly flexible.
Okay.
We're focused on community and brand.
Yeah. So, we've kicked off this AI GTM Cafe, like a monthly, third Wednesday of the month. Next one is on May 20th, 8:30 to 9:30. So we're
Mhm.
bringing in our customers, our partners, folks who are interested for a very interesting conversation. We're doing a lot of discussion around the 11-layer AI. We built like a AI-driven sales automation process, and we talk about that, all the different tech and tools you can put together, and how do you tap, we have some tech in that area, as signal based tech, but then there's a lot of other third party tech that needs to come together to make the entire workflow work. So
Mhm.
that's turning out to be an interesting way, we find, right, to bring a community together. And as you know, you are both part of Pavilion. That's an amazing 10,000 person revenue leader community. A lot of these dialogue and conversations are happening. Let's talk about, just as we wrap up, just looking ahead. What do you see happening next? Not like any of us know, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, how do you see things evolving for you guys at Deepline? What's next for you in terms of as you keep building? What do you see happening?
Yeah. Like in terms of the near term roadmap, signals is the best next big one. How do
Got
you
it.
get real time signals at scale, programmatically, and in a way that's easy for a non technical user to be able to bridge all of these gaps and kind of vibe code the
Yeah,
outcomes that they're focused on.
yeah,
Going forward, I think we are emphasizing developer experience as maybe our core differentiator
yeah,
of ease of access, being able to implement this in a product in production.
yeah,
So I think there's still a gap between like vibe coding and production apps, and what can we do to make that bridge as easy as possible, where you can describe an outcome and then immediately make it a production app. Very similar to Vercel in a lot of ways. I think I look at Vercel as like the best in class. I don't know a ton about infrastructure, but I'm able to implement a reliable production app very quickly. How do we do that for go to market?
got it. Yeah, just to wrap up, Jay, I'm going to put up our contact information. How do you want people to get in touch with you? Your
Yeah,
preference?
LinkedIn, email. We have a Slack community on our website at deepline.com. We're very open to feedback. If there's things you want to change about the product, we're moving as quickly as possible to adapt it. Obviously, the space is very fun and it's an exciting time to build. But the most fun part is just hearing the crazy stuff our customers want to do and then finding ways to solve it for them.
So, folks, there you go. That concludes episode 59 of AI GTM Talks, moving to Agentic GTM. We learned all about building with Claude Code and Deepline. And Jay, amazing session, man. Thank you for joining.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Bonnie. Talk to you.